lo and behold, I got pregnant right before my 43rd birthday,
Mm,
naturally, Kylie. So this is
yeah,
after years of treatment, and they told me it would basically never happen because
yeah.
my numbers were like they said forget it.
Welcome to Wild and Finally Fucking Free, hosted by me, soul-fueled storyteller Kylie Patchett. We dive into the truth-talking, unedited stories of metamorphosis, growth, and evolution. I deeply believe that sharing our stories holds transformative magic. Join us to listen to future humans, change agents, extraordinary ordinary people, healers, and paradigm shifters as we honor the power of our messy, magical stories. Let's get wild and finally fucking free together. Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast, everybody. It's Kylie here, and today I have the beautiful Rosanne Austin with me. Hello, Rosanne. How are you?
I am fantastic, Kylie, and thank you so much for having me on. I am
I am.
delighted to see where this conversation goes.
We're like two effervescent smiley people. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a fun conversation. Now, I have to say, I was just saying to you before we started recording, your Instagram bio line. I'm going to share that. I will ask you to introduce yourself, but your bio on Instagram says former prosecutor turned fertility fairy godmother. That is the best one-line bio I've ever heard. So please introduce your beautiful self to our listeners if they don't already know you.
Yeah, well, that's actually the Fertility Fairy Godmother is actually something that the women that I serve all over the world have given me that moniker. It's an honor. It kind of makes me chuckle a little bit. But that bio kind of says it all. So
Mm-hmm.
I was a prosecutor in California for a decade.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was also struggling with fertility.
Mm-hmm.
And during that process, and I was prosecuting sex crimes, I was the lead trial attorney for that particular unit. So I would, needless to say, I was a very busy woman.
Mm-hmm.
And as things would have it, I'm also a little bit of a busy body. So my husband and I also decided that during that time, we wanted to start our family on top of me having back-to-back cases
Yep.
and things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's really where it all started. And it was my struggle with fertility that was approximately 7 years that opened me to a world that I had no idea I was getting into. So I
Mm-hmm.
was, very quickly flung. I mean, by that time, I was already into my mid to late 30s and I was already hearing the horror stories. I don't know where I picked it up, but I picked up this idea that getting pregnant was going to be hard because I was quote unquote over the hill. And
Oh,
I don't know if this is,
yes.
I don't know if this is true in Australia, but at least in the United States, we use really horrific language like
Mm.
geriatric
Yep. We do
for
that here.
anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
anyone over 35 is considered geriatric. And I'm like, I'm just getting started at 35. Are you kidding me? I've
I'm just
never,
warming up.
yeah, I'm like, and it's just kind of funny the way that we treat women, but that's kind of that whole experience. And it cast us into this world that was, as I said, an approximately 7 year journey to our
Mm.
son. And we were trying every treatment, diet, lotion, potion, spray, meditation, yoga pose, anything I could get my hands on. They could
Mm-hmm.
never find anything wrong with either one of us per se. What was
Yep.
happening is they would pile on the age story, but what I came to find out, Kylie, was really interesting because as a trial attorney, I was all about covering my bases.
Yep.
I did not lack discipline. So if anyone said, okay, take this supplement, try this diet, I mean, I was doing it. I
Mm-hmm.
practically standing on my head, willing to do anything that I could in order to call in this baby that we wanted so dearly.
Mm-hmm.
But after repeated failed IVF cycles and running myself into a place where I was just a mess, I
Mm-hmm.
had to stop and ask myself what wasn't clean? What was out of alignment? What was the
Ooh.
thing that I wasn't seeing?
Mm-hmm.
And it it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was actually my mindset. Now, let me explain what I mean by that, because
Yeah.
I don't mean mindset in an airy fairy woo woo
Wait,
way.
wait,
And while
wait.
I have absolute love for the woo woo and the airy fairy,
Mm-hmm.
that's not exactly what I'm talking about here. When I'm talking about this, I'm talking about the way that I was thinking
Hmm.
and what I was believing.
Yep.
So I was running around with a story that I wasn't enough. I was too old. I was broken.
Mm,
I was
mm,
full of shame
hmm,
and guilt and a host of other horrific thoughts. So that
hmm,
when I was going into these very, let's say, investment heavy treatments
mm,
and things like that, I was expecting to fail because I didn't believe I was enough. I didn't believe I was worthy of this child that I wanted because frankly, the way that I saw it was I was asking for too much. I had the love of my life. I had a
ooh,
dream career.
yep.
I had financial security. I
Hmm.
had an incredible collection of Manolo Blahnik shoes at home. And so, in addition to that, like, I want a baby on top of that. And if you saw me back then, you would have thought that I was the kind of woman that had all my shit together. Like on the
Mm,
exterior, I was like bulletproof.
yep.
But this struggle with fertility really caused me to look at myself in an entirely different way. I was ashamed. This was the one thing I could not outwork. This is the
Mm,
one thing, my fertility was the thing I couldn't just make it happen.
yep.
So it caused me to do the self reflection that I was talking about. And I
Hmm.
started to look at my mindset and I'm like, wow, it's a pile of rubbish in there. So it didn't surprise me that I wasn't getting pregnant because
Yep.
I was quietly creating an intense amount of stress, flooding my
Hmm.
body with cortisol.
Yep.
And
Yep. Yep.
obviously, your brain controls your hormone production. And when you're in a constant state of fight or flight, what does the body do? It suppresses extraneous things like fertility. Okay.
Correct. Yep.
So, and the doctors were telling me, oh, stress has nothing to do with this. You don't need to change your
Sorry.
lifestyle. Yeah, I know. No, I mean, and I say this with so much humility,
Yeah.
when I look back on it now, I cannot believe that I bought that because
Mm,
my instinct was telling me I'm working a lot.
hmm.
My stress level, because of the nature of my cases, okay,
Hmm.
I'd basically start my day, at an arraignment for a child
Yep.
molester, then go home and take my fertility medications and think this was all, going to come out in the wash, right? I mean, it was the way I was living
Yeah.
was absolutely not conducive
Mm,
to getting and staying pregnant. So
nope.
when I started working on my mindset, cleaning up the mess and the way that I was
Hmm.
thinking and addressing my, internal issues, I got pregnant for the first time at 40,
Hmm.
which was really interesting because after all of these years and like,
Hmm.
all of this insanity, and I didn't carry that baby to term, but what that showed me, Kylie, was that I could have more of an impact than I thought
Yes.
because nothing else changed. Okay, nothing else changed. And so
Hmm.
that was with the last embryos we had.
Hmm.
And so at that point, I was at a crossroads. I didn't want to do IVF anymore. I had done it so many times and I didn't want to flood my body with all of that hormone again. I had some concerns about, like, the long term impact.
Yeah.
So my husband and I looked at each other and we're like, okay, it's us and God, universe, source.
Hmm.
And so I went to work on me,
Hmm.
continued to do that. And in the meantime, what was interesting is I said to myself, look, I have to teach other women what I figured out here because
Yes.
if I could just get one woman to listen to what I did and help her change her outcome,
Yeah.
then I have made good use of the big
Yeah.
mouth that, God, universe, source
You
gave
paid
me,
it
right?
forward.
Well, yeah, because I mean, because think about it, Kylie. I mean, like, I'm sure that even in your acquaintance, you have heard of women doing the most insane things in the
Oh,
name of trying
100%.
to have a
Yeah.
baby,
Hmm.
but it's all physical.
Yep.
So they miss this entirely, like, this wide, like, area. There's like a giant gap in the strategy because
Hmm.
mind and body work together. This is not
Of course.
woo woo. This is documented. Okay. This
Hmm.
is actual science. So we
Yeah.
know this. And it was like, oh my gosh, I had this giant hole in my strategy. I wasn't leveraging it. Oh my goodness. So then I started teaching other women. And lo and behold, I got pregnant right before my 43rd birthday
Mm.
naturally, Kylie. So this is
Yeah.
after years of treatment, and they told me it would basically never happen because
Yeah.
my numbers were like they said forget it. So by incorporating the power of my thoughts and beliefs,
Hmm.
changing the way that I thought about myself, changing the way that I approached my life, and it made me more fertile in my 40s than I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
So now my son is turning 7 this month.
Exciting.
Yeah, so that's how, and so like I just made the commitment to, like, as part of my gratitude for the blessing that I had, that I was going to teach anyone who would listen what I learned.
Mm.
So that's how the former prosecutor becomes a
I
fertility
love
fairy
it.
godmother. And here we are, like 10 plus years later, and it's insane. And now, like, I serve women literally all over the world
Mm.
who are struggling with fertility and teaching them this way of thinking. And yeah, so here we are.
I love it. Oh my goodness. I didn't actually think about the fact that I have like a parallel story because I was originally, my first career was in forensic biology, and I worked in, yeah, child sex offences towards the end of it. So at the time that we were trying to fall pregnant with our first child, I was seeing the worst things possible that people, did to each other, and particularly children, high stress levels, and then wanting to actually fall pregnant. And of course, two big things in the way. A, the world doesn't feel safe for kids because I'm seeing all of this awful stuff every single day. But also, I am so freaking stressed that my body doesn't feel safe enough to fall pregnant and stay pregnant. No way. And it's interesting because I made a decision to leave that career completely because I just was like, if I'm going to have kids, I can't have this in my awareness. And even to this day, I don't watch the news. I don't, like, people sometimes will be like, oh, don't you know what's happening? And I'm like, I have enough crap in my head, as you no doubt, about what can happen in the world. I'm done. But as soon as I actually left that job, and listening to you, I can see that really what was happening for me too was physically, my body didn't feel on high alert all the time. And so eventually it was quite happy to fall pregnant. It took me 3 years, but then it took me 3 weeks the second time. So I have two kids, 12 months apart.
Yeah. But,
So,
you
yeah.
know, I love that. I mean, I love that, Kylie, because you're living proof of what I just said.
Hmm.
Is that, we think that this meat suit we're wearing, right? That there's this disconnect between the mind and the body, because over time we've been encouraged to compartmentalize these
Hmm.
things, that, oh, if we just get your uterus right. And it's like, wait a second, the body is a complex system.
Yeah.
And I think that you nailed it, where the body is like, hey man, you're either producing way too much cortisol for me to have, like, the kind of the rest of the hormones in balance to be able to
Hmm.
support a pregnancy, and also just don't feel safe,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So it is actually and it isn't just a feeling, it's actually quite strategic when you think about it, because like
Hmm.
most of the women that I serve can't hear the woo woo stuff. They can't hear it, Kylie. They can't hear it. They're not ready for it. So the easiest way to communicate this is simply to say it's poor strategy to not have the mind
Mm.
and body working together. Why would you not leverage that?
Yeah, I
Like, if
noticed
you
you
could,
used the word strategy, and I was thinking, oh, I wonder who her ideal client is, because strategy is such a left brain word, but what you're really talking about, and I mean, left and right brain is so flawed anyway, but the more
right.
creative. And I think as you're talking, I used to teach a mindset course years ago, and on a bookmark I had printed, you're never a victim of your circumstances, you're only ever a victim of what you believe is possible. So listening to you,
Ooh,
yeah,
yeah.
listening to what you're saying, because medicine, so my other career is sleep and respiratory medicine around the same time as forensic. So when I went into, like, I became a sleep scientist believing that I could make a real difference, right? And then you work in a medical system that does exactly what you're talking about, pulls us all apart into separate disciplines. So you see the cardiologist, the kidney doctor, the sleep doctor, who happens to be a thoracic physician. And then you go down the road and you see the endocrinologist or the gynecologist or whatever. And I'm like, how are we not? And none of those people talk to each other, God forbid. So
Right.
we're trying to pull humans into organ systems, forgetting that there's this whole psychological, emotional, spiritual, being that's also attached to the meat suit, not soup. And then wondering why people aren't feeling, or they're not empowered to believe things are possible. And also, I'm interested, do you feel like this is a kind of similar thing that we see with, like, it always amazes me. Someone will have a diagnosis, like a cancer diagnosis, and if it's a bad later stage cancer diagnosis, if they're told they have X amount of time to live, very often they do that. And I'm like, if we didn't say a figure, what would be possible for that person? But it's almost the same. I don't know, and I might have offended people by using that example, but I just believe
No,
that our
why would that be
minds,
offensive?
well, I'm like,
Kylie, it's a freaking fact.
stop listening to medical people that only see a tiny little bit of you, because there's so much more. And when you talk about strategy, because I think you're right, we think fertility is a problem because of physical stuff. Like that's your natural kind of like, oh, there must be something wrong. And what you're saying, and as you're speaking, is like, the messaging that you were getting from the medical community, and we use that term. I've got a friend who would be listening who was a geriatric pregnancy person, and she was only geriatric by about 3 months or something because she was 35 and a bit. She was in the paper about being in a geriatric pregnancy, and I'm like, why are we using this language? Because it's so
Yeah,
limiting. Hey gorgeous, we interrupt this gold for a delicious invitation. If your whole body has been whispering more lately, more voice, more truth, more satisfaction, more clients of the soulmate variety, more cash, more you, then this invitation is for you. Potent, my sister mind is officially open. This is my high touch, holy fuck, I'm ready sister mind for rebels in good girl clothing who are done outsourcing their power and diluting their magic to fit into someone else's business formula. If you have been craving a space where your strategy, your voice, and your energy all get to be offered, honored, refined, and amplified, this is it. Inside of Potent, you'll get my eyes on your business every single week, copy mentoring, and that is for brand copy and content storytelling that turns your truth into client catnip, energetic recalibration that helps you unhook old learned limitation patterns, keeping you quiet, not being seen, not being heard, real-time, high-touch, one-on-one coaching that actually sees the bigness of your vision, and the kind of sisterhood that does not flinch when you show up in your full, messy, brilliant, phoenix rising from the ashes glory. This isn't surface level support. It's deep, potent, paradigm shifting work that changes who you are as a woman in business and a woman in life. We start in August. Early open access is open right now. For the month of June 2025, inside of this early access open doors period, you will receive juicy bonuses, extended payment plans, and access immediately to my entire library of storytelling gold. You'll find all the juicy details at kyliepatchett.com/potent. And we fill spaces, and there's only 10 of them, and more than likely only 5 by the time you listen to this, because by that time I will have offered them to the existing cohort, the beautiful original OG circle. We do actually take applications on a first come, first served basis. So come and apply, and let's get back to the magic of the episode.
It's incredibly limiting. And so here's what I would say about that is because, well, first of all, Dr. Bernie Siegel, super famous, wrote Love, Medicine, and Miracles and other New York Times bestselling books. He wrote the foreword to my first book.
Beautiful.
And your point is exactly what he said. People will die right on time. If you tell people they got 6 months to live, you kind of have two groups of people. You have the rebels and you have the compliant ones.
I would be the
The
rebel.
Yes,
I'd be like,
exactly.
screw you.
Yeah, exactly. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I'm gonna live, right? So, but that's exactly what,
Mm.
he's 40 plus years as a surgeon demonstrated to
Mhm.
him, particularly
Mhm.
in cancer patients. And we see this, I mean, when
Mm.
you think about it, like cancer, chronic disease, fertility is a chronic condition. You're trying to figure out what's going on. So
Mhm.
that even if you had a legitimate physical issue, that a legitimate diagnosis,
Yep.
that what is the value in giving somebody a limitation? At that
Yes.
point, it seems to me that the wiser thing is to say, here's a constellation of things that could happen.
Mhm.
I'm not Nostradamus. I can't tell you what's going to happen
Yes.
here, but you have a vote. And just as in, I actually had Dr. Ellen Langer on my podcast about a month ago,
Mhm.
and from Harvard, and she had said she wasn't sure, and this was in her most recent book, The Mindful Body.
Yeah.
And she had said she wasn't sure what was actually killing people, giving them the diagnosis or the disease itself.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like we treat the mental aspect of this as if it's secondary. When you think about it, your mind is not, you have a brain, but then you have this mind thing that we talk
Mhm.
about
Yeah.
that's so much bigger than all of this. And it's
Mhm.
like you're not leveraging this thing that has the ability to create a physiological reaction in your
Response.
body.
Yeah.
Like, why would you not leverage that? Like,
Mm.
and I think that's really, when we take a look at this as women, if we think about how do I empower myself in a wildly masculine, male dominated profession
Yep. Yep. Yep.
that
That's the other
seeks
things.
right, that seeks to make us a number,
Mhm.
tries to usher us into the narrow confines of studies, which we know any sensible critical thinking person understands that studies are funded. And ask yourself who's paying for the study
Mhm.
and what do they want out of it.
Mhm.
Okay, doing studies is expensive.
Mhm.
You People want something out of it.
Correct.
So, and I've had reproductive endocrinologists on my podcast as well,
Mhm.
explaining that, look, hey, here's the deal. Statistics get skewed. You have a choice, right? That's one piece of data. It's not
Yes.
all the data.
Correct.
So, I tell my ladies all the time, I said, look, your diagnosis is not a verdict. It's a piece of information. And you've got to make the decision that you are going to be creative, you're going to
Mhm.
be resourceful, and you're going to
Mhm.
treat yourself as a whole. WHOLE. Okay,
What
that you
is
are
most
going,
difficult for them? Is it the last one? Is that the most tricky?
I think so. If we back this up just a bit
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we ask another question and we say, why do women buy into a lot of the
Yes.
myths about fertility?
Mm-hmm.
My answer to that question, and look, there's probably a constellation of different ways that we
Mm-hmm.
can answer that question, but I believe primarily the
Mm-hmm.
most impactful answer to that question is authority. When was the last time you had somebody in a white coat affirm
Yep.
your authority as a woman?
Never.
Most of the time, we're told that we don't know enough
Mm.
about our own body and that somebody in a white coat knows better.
Yep.
And while that may be true from an academic standpoint or
Mm-hmm.
maybe a structural standpoint, I was terrible at math and science. That's why I went to law school, Kylie. Okay. So I am not somebody who did organic chemistry.
Yeah.
Okay. I have not done an anatomy class that included a cadaver. Okay.
I
So
have
I don't,
many.
yeah, good. Okay.
I
So
will
so
help
that's
you.
good. The two of us together, okay, form,
Excellent.
you know, but nobody knows us as well as we do. And that's something women listening to this really
Mm.
have to understand because I'll tell you
Mm.
just a quick side note. So when I was 37, I was told after a single failed round of IVF that I needed donor eggs. And I can tell you, Kylie, that while I have zero judgment on a
Mm.
woman going that route
Hmm.
to have her baby. I think it's a beautiful gift that woman can give to another.
Yeah.
Not here to judge it.
Hmm.
Something inside of me screamed, that's not me.
Yes.
So my heart knew that that wasn't my path, but yet we fill this fertility challenge with so much fear that so often women are not encouraged to exercise their authority. They're not
Hmm.
encouraged to think critically. Nobody's asking them, hey, you know what? Tell me what you really want. Truly, from a loving place, let me help you find a solution
Yeah.
if that's possible, right?
Hmm.
It's like, hey, go do some donor eggs. That's the answer. And I can tell you from personal experience, me being one of them,
Mm.
and having helped women for the past 10 years
Yeah.
get and stay pregnant, so many women have known that that wasn't their path, that on the eve of considering or doing donor eggs, they
Hmm.
found out that they're pregnant.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's insane.
Mm.
Your body knows. We know. So to go back to the original question, why do
Mm.
women fall for this?
Yeah.
I think it's a question of authority. We have
Yeah.
not been encouraged to lead when it
Hmm.
comes to our health sovereignty
Yeah.
and as women. And I think it's a travesty.
Mm. I agree. I work a lot with clients helping them write copy when they're working in the midlife transition space. So as you're talking about all of the fertility power and authority and the imbalance and the thing that we don't trust ourselves as much as, bloody, bloody, blah. And then if you add on top of that, like at the very least, there is more. Actually, I don't know whether that's true. I was going to say more fertility informed medical knowledge, but however, I would say that it's through a lens of one particular thing rather than a holistic care
Right.
perspective. But in the
Agreed.
menopause space, there's even less information. And so what is happening is women are getting incorrect information. They're getting misdiagnosed, but it's the same pattern. It's like, you don't know your body as well as I do. I'm the doctor. So the doctor, the perception is the doctor has the power. And I'm like, hang on a minute. Have you actually run that through your own felt sense of whether that feels right to you or not? Like, and I think this, this is informed by a very healthy disrespect for authority, which I have always had. And when I was working in the
You
hospital
too.
system, that's that doesn't work very well. Like, I was running a private medical company at 27 as a female, and I was actually having to deal with the 50 and 60-year-old misogynistic like board members, above me that I was answering to. And so often you would hear conversations in the corridors or in like one of our team meetings or something with the doctors talking about a particular patient. And it was always, and I'm talking about in the late 90s. So I would please God hope that we have come much further than this. But there was often conversations about, oh, that stupid person, they want to go and try this weird alternative treatment, bloody, bloody, blah. Like, just complete disrespect and condescension. And because they are taught, if you are a doctor, especially specialist, you're like equivalent to God. And I'm like, I beg your pardon. Like, I had so many difficult conversations. But I think for the average person, I certainly think too, for thinking about my parents' generation, like, there's no way that any of those people in that generation, at least in Australia, would challenge a doctor. It's just like, they know best. Like, you don't even question it.
Right.
It's almost like the news tells you the truth. I'm like, oh my God, okay. I know, right? I'm like, bullshit. So,
Yeah, I don't know
yeah,
if the last few years has taught us anything. It's the exact opposite of that.
surely.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because knowing what I know now,
Hmm.
like I have more compassion. It's an interesting compassion because I
Hmm.
I coach a lot of physicians and I love, I mean, like it's again, it's a very masculine thing to want to pit people against each other. I
Yeah,
I like to lean into the feminine and say we all have something
to offer.
wonderful to
Hmm.
bring to the
Hmm.
conversation,
Hmm.
and I don't have a particular bone to pick.
Hmm.
with allopathic medicine. I think it has its place. I think it
Yes.
has its role when it comes to trauma and surgeries. I think
Hmm.
miracles are being done. I think reproductive endocrinology is making uh, childbearing something that for some women, like it's just absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
But I think that when we talk about authority, though,
Hmm.
I think that having a different quality conversation where we put the patient at the center,
Yes.
okay, making sure that everybody is 100% responsible for their own choices and
Hmm.
has that kind of authority to either accept or decline,
Hmm.
right? Or maybe to incorporate a little bit of this and a little bit of that because it's their life and treat people
Yes.
with respect. I think we would be in a much different place
Yes.
across the board, whether it was fertility or otherwise.
Hmm.
I think that there's a bit of our humanity has been lost
Hmm.
in this process, and a vast majority of my focus in the work that I do, and it sounds like it's similar to what you do in this
Hmm.
sense, is really bringing people back
Mm.
to that sense of sovereignty and
Yeah.
get them lined up with what they actually want
Hmm.
so that instead of making fear-based choices that suck,
Yeah.
that they can make well-informed
Hmm.
choices that are in alignment with what they value, and
Yes.
also be empowered that if they make a mistake, if something doesn't quite work out,
Mm.
that it's not the end of the world, that they're going to
Mm.
just shift their focus, shift the strategy, and continue to move forward, because I think
Yeah.
ultimately that's what it's all about,
Yeah.
moving forward.
100%. And being able to respond, I think that's a very good point because I think sometimes when we're trying to make a decision about anything actually in life, if we trying to just think it through, not feel it through, but also if there's a power structure in the, the different opinions or whatever that you're looking into and they're kind of like ranked almost, it's like, it sounds to me like you're saying, all right, let's talk about a couple, not just the woman, who are trying to conceive as whole humans, who are, looking to bring another whole human into this world. And then, yeah, can you talk a bit more about aligning to your values? Because I think this is a key. Like I always talk about this in a marketing perspective, but I'm interested.
Mhm.
So when you say align to your values, I know that phrase is used a lot, but I'm interested to hear your take on it in terms of the fertility journey for people.
Yeah. And so when in the context of fertility, I like to look at it as what really matters to you.
Mm.
What matters to you and how do you actually want to do this? Not what
Mhm.
people are telling you to do, not what you think you should do, but what do
Mm.
you actually want?
Yeah.
That's one of the most important questions when I'm working with women, is to truly understand and listen. What do you want?
Yeah.
Right? Because when I've spoken to, like, even if I took the women that I've spoken to in the past 24 hours,
Mhm.
so many women get bullied
Mm.
into doing fertility treatments after
Yes.
X number of months or
Mm.
a year has gone by, right?
Yep. Someone
And
else's
every
timeline.
clinic's, yeah, it's always
Mm.
somebody else's timeline, and it's always this sort of, well, I'm gonna, let's just hurry up and get you into treatment. And
Yes.
and while that may make sense in certain circumstances, like let's say if somebody's undergoing a cancer treatment and they want
Mhm.
to retrieve their eggs and
Yeah.
freeze them
Yeah.
for use later in case they are, have
Mhm.
chemotherapy or whatever. I mean, yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, that's pedal to the metal on that. Okay. Like
Yes. Yeah.
that makes sense. But, when I think back to my own story, is I was ushered into treatment very quickly. Like
Mm.
nobody even mentioned anything to me, and this was obviously quite some time ago,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
nobody mentioned anything about diet. It wasn't until I went into the alternative world,
Yes.
which I went into after I was stunned. Like I can be so grateful to the physician that told me I needed donor eggs because that was so, like, such a giant wake up call
Yep.
that this notion, and again, no judgment on it, I think is beautiful. But for me, it was out of alignment, going back
Mhm.
to the original question of,
Mhm.
just wasn't part of my personal value system.
Yeah.
What I
Yeah.
wanted was to have my baby
Yes.
with, my own egg, my husband's
Mm-hmm.
sperm. That's where I
Mm-hmm.
was at the time.
Yeah.
And so when we think about what we value, it's like, get to know what you actually want. Like asking somebody, what do you really want?
Yeah.
With zero judgment,
Mm-hmm.
totally open to hearing what they have to say, and an open heart.
Yeah.
It's surprising what you can find. Like, I will talk to women who have had repeated rounds of IVF tell me that they actually just want to conceive naturally.
Yeah.
Like, something tells them they're going to conceive this baby naturally. And very often they do,
It's so
right? Because
interesting, isn't it?
Well,
I
yeah,
just,
because so
yeah.
often we get ushered in because we're like, oh, the clock is a ticking, lady, your eggs aren't getting any younger. And so a lot of women get bullied into that. And I and I
Mm-hmm.
I am very consciously using the word bullied.
Yeah.
Um, Not because again that I have some terrible hatred for physicians in that space, quite the opposite. Um, but nobody's asking these women what they really want.
Mm.
Not really. Not really. Not without a motive.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important for women to stop, or even anything, any endeavor,
Yeah.
whether it's
I
midlife,
agree.
because
Check
you're
in.
talking, yeah, it's like, what do I actually want here? Not what you think you can get,
Yes.
not what somebody else tells you to want, not what they say on TV, not what your mother
Mm-hmm.
did, not what your father
Mm-hmm.
did, or
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
best girlfriend from high school. What do you, as a unique, sentient being who has value and who has worth, what do you want?
Yeah.
Huge. And then once you can answer that question, and because the other piece of it is to drop the judgment, to drop the drama
Yes.
about what that is. And that's all
Correct.
mindset work, baby. That's all mindset
Yes.
work, is upending the apple cart about a lot of those judgments. Then you can start making choices that are actually in alignment with
And
what you
therefore,
want.
sorry, don't add to the stress level, which is part of the problem in the first place, right? Because that dissonance between
Exactly.
what you really want and the way that you're kind of approaching things, whether we're consciously aware of it or not, is just turbulence to what you're actually, what you're seeking. I'm interested when you have that conversation with someone that you're working with, or actually, no, the question that I want to ask is, you mentioned before you're coaching some of the specialist endocrinologists or endocrinologists, gynecologists, both reproductive
Physicians of
endo,
all
yeah.
different kinds. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so when you say to them about this values piece, what is their response? Do they understand it because they're a human and they understand what values are, or have they not even, like, what is the big surprising things for them when they start working with you? Because I imagine there would be quite some.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting. So if we're talking about physicians that I coach, I think one
Hmm.
of the coolest things, and I say it's cool because I think it's a wonderful reminder that we're all human.
Yeah,
And this is a message that I give women all the time. Stop putting so much pressure on your
on the
physician to
doctor.
fix you,
Yes.
because these are human beings. I mean, this is why, like I said earlier in this
Mm.
conversation, I have so
Hmm.
much compassion,
Yes.
because lay people will come in and expect, hey, doc, fix me,
Hmm.
and not take any responsibility for their health, not take any responsibility for
Mm.
the follow through, taking the advice. So all of their authority is thrown on, because like I
Yeah.
think you have a couple different camps, right? We
Mm.
have physicians that see themselves as gods, just like
Yes.
there are lawyers who see themselves as
Oh,
gods, or coaches who see
absolutely.
themselves as
Yeah.
god.
There's
So there's this,
entrepreneurs that see themselves as
yeah,
God. Let's just talk about, yeah,
yeah,
in
yeah,
every
yeah.
profession, I'm sure.
Yeah. So there's a level of narcissism in
Yeah.
all of that. But then there's the people who are out there really trying to help,
Yeah.
but they can't do it alone. So
Yes.
I see this as kind of an interesting
Mm.
opportunity for people to take the pressure off their doctor,
Hmm.
take responsibility for their health, take their authority, and see their physician as a partner in this, not the responsible party.
Mm.
We are ultimately responsible. So I think that's one of the things that was the most surprising, through all
Yeah.
these years of working with physicians. I was like, man, a lot of these women just feel so much pressure.
Yeah.
to, either fix other people, whether they have anything to do with fertility or not. They
Mm-hmm.
could be in many different specialties.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it really opened my eyes. And it, I had a moment of repentance a bit as well, because it's real easy to blame people.
Yeah.
It's super easy to blame people. And I think physicians take a lot of hits, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it's unfair.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that when so that was a big wake up call.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like, but then back when I was an attorney, like everyone expected me to have all the answers. And
Correct.
and I did not have the comfort that
Mm-hmm.
I have today with making mistakes,
Mm.
that I could say I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
With honesty and confidence, and not feel any less about myself because I didn't know how to answer
Yeah.
that question. So that's
Yeah.
why I have a lot of compassion for the physicians,
Yeah.
at the same time, the ones that are human have
Mm-hmm.
not given up
Yes.
their humanity, okay?
Yes.
The ones that think that have a God complex, well, they've got other, fish to fry. But like, I think that that's one of the most surprising things, was the amount of pressure that
Mm-hmm.
people put on their physicians to fix them, when I think that the better and wiser position for all of us is to be in a place of taking full and complete responsibility for the results in our lives,
Yeah.
compassionately and lovingly,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can make better choices moving forward, either better choices for ourselves, better choices in our treatment teams,
Mm-hmm.
finding physicians who believe in you, that aren't going to
Yes.
treat you like a number, aren't going to treat you with disrespect.
Yeah.
And remember, I mean, because the other thing, Kylie, is you got to remember what these women are doing
Mm-hmm.
is trying to have babies.
Yeah.
Like, it's not another notch in your professional
No,
post. It's not
this is a human.
yeah, it's a very human and feminine endeavor,
Mm-hmm.
which is something interesting, because and it seems like kind of a cool segue, because I have a book coming out in August,
Yes. 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 Yes.
called The Feminine Fertility Cure. And I
Mm.
called it that because over the past 10 plus years of doing this work, one of the things I saw consistently and in myself, okay, so this is not
Mm-hmm.
me speaking on high, not having
No, no.
lived with this myself,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the most consistent factors that I see in women that struggle with fertility is a complete and total disconnection from their feminine.
Mm. Mm.
So, which is really interesting, because at least women in the United States, I can't speak for Australia, but
Yeah.
I have worked with quite a
I,
few women in
yep.
Australia. So I think,
I think this is
I think there's some
samesies.
yeah, I think there's some crossover here, but I can
Mm-hmm.
only speak about America with authority because I live here.
Mm-hmm.
But since about the 1960s, the women's
Mm-hmm.
movement here in the United States, we have seen a consistent and progressive masculinization of our
Yes.
female population.
Mm-hmm.
And it's shocking, because there was actually a study that came out of the Wharton School of Business
Mm-hmm.
back in, oh gosh, I can't, it was in the 2000s that it
Yeah.
came out. I think the data they looked at was from between 1970 and 2006.
Mm-hmm.
That a really well-respected study, fascinating read,
Mm-hmm.
was that there's an inverse relationship between the amount of education a woman has and her happiness. So the more educated,
Whoa.
yes, I encourage women to read this because it's shocking.
You just
And it was
scrambled my brain. Say that again. An
I
inverse
know. So, yeah,
relationship.
there's an inverse relationship between the amount of education and our overall happiness as women, because we've become so disconnected to the very basic and beautiful things in our lives
Yep.
that we're less and less happy.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think we all know women in our acquaintance that we would all agree. It's like, you know,
100%.
and if, okay, here's another thing that's interesting about this, Kylie, and I'd be really interested to
Yeah.
hear what you think about this is, look, if having wonderful homes that we love and partners that we share our lives with and babies were a thing
Mm-hmm.
of the past and but a passe dinosaur,
Mm-hmm.
remnant of the past, why are
Yeah.
women in their 40s scrambling to have babies?
Correct. Yep.
It's because we get to a point where we realize, we look around our lives that, okay, I have all these letters after my name. I'm
I
making
know,
all
right?
this money. I'm
Mm-hmm.
very accomplished based on a masculine standard of
Yep.
accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
But is this all there is?
100%. We realize that we've climbed to the top of the ladder and we're on the wrong bloody ladder.
Right. But we, at our core, long for these things that up to this point were made so backwards and so
Yes.
uninformed. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
when I think back, like if somebody asked me at the height of my career as a prosecutor
Mm-hmm.
if I was living the dream, I would have said yes.
Yes, because you didn't know better.
I didn't know shit, Kylie. I didn't
Exactly.
know.
I'm relating
I
hard, Roseanne,
Yeah,
relating hard.
I know. I mean, but what's fascinating about this is that it's anti-feminist to say this out loud. Because if you said this out loud, people would jump to the conclusion ignorantly
Yes.
that you're saying that the advancements we've made as women are no good, and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, that's actually not what I'm saying. What I'm
Mm-mm.
saying is that the systemic and systematic masculinization of women has not given us the result that we thought we would get. We thought we
Correct.
would get to this feminist utopia.
Correct. We
But
have
it's
taken
not,
the wrong turn.
we've taken the wrong
Yeah,
turn. I mean,
100%.
because I think about the happiest and really well adjusted, just truly satisfied with their lives women.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, there are women that have love. There are
Yeah,
women that
connection.
have homes and connection. Exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
more often than not, babies
Yeah,
or grown children,
yeah,
by the time
yeah,
you
yeah,
ask them.
yeah,
But like,
yeah,
I mean, if that wasn't true, the fertility industry would not be an $8 billion industry that it
yeah,
is, because
exactly.
we want it desperately.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness, there is so much gold in what you just said, and my brain wants to go in 50 different directions. I think what I would
Let's
like to
go in
do,
50 different
I know,
directions.
right?
I'm game. Yeah.
What I want to bring to the surface, because as you're talking about not thinking that your doctor needs to be kind of like the savior, the hero, the whatever, to me, it's the same pattern of we've got a system that only works for the people in power. Historically, the
Mm.
people in power have been the ones with the white coats or the white men with the education. Like, whatever system of oppression you're going to put over this, it all works the same. There's someone in power and there's someone that's not. And so we have been trained very well, conditioned in this system of oppression to think that we have less power than someone else. In this situation, if I'm the woman and I'm going to the doctor, we've been trained to disempower ourselves and give the power to the person who's supposed to know better. But as you're talking, all of these felt sense and knowings, if we are not disconnected from them, because I totally relate to, living from the neck up in the first half of my life. And then I'm like, oh my God, I have a body. I'm allowed to have needs. Like I can
Yeah,
just be
yeah.
deeply satisfied with a simple life. Like, how did because I feel like as you're talking too, like, same thing. I was telling my daughter this actually the other day. It was like, I remember this day when I think I was 26 or 27. I'd finished in forensics and I got this big, big job. I'd been conditioned to, find a good job with good money, that sort of, so I've climbed the ladder. I've got this job. I'm the head of a medical company. And I remember sitting at my desk at about 10 o'clock at night, looking out onto the dark car park, because it was in a hospital, because it was a sleep lab, looking out on this dark car park and thinking, what the fuck have I done? Because I've gotten to the place that I've been conditioned to think is success. And I am so desperately unhappy. I'm like, I was engaged to my husband at the time. I'm not seeing him. I can't remember the last time I had fun. I have no connected friendships because I'm not spending any time with these people. And I'm like, I have climbed the wrong ladder. And it was totally because, yeah, I think when we're trying to sort of break the patriarchy, we've actually just Masculine. What word did you say?
Masculine, yeah,
Yeah,
masculinized. See, whatever you
thank
got
you.
is contagious. So, but yeah.
Right. Sometimes I get too excited and my words won't come out. But all we've done is tried to prove that we can do what men do rather than actually just doing what we want to do as females. And I'm like,
100%.
and then there's a whole generation of us in our late 40s and early 50s going, well,
That
that was
experiment
a,
failed.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, but
Um,
it's so true. What you're
yeah,
saying is very true because I'm Gen X, so I
yeah,
I just
me
turned
too.
50.
I'm just about to turn
And
50, so there you go.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't recall ever being invited to consider having babies and a family as a legitimate use of my life. And
Oh
I
God,
mean,
no.
and yeah, I mean, because you think about it, think about how if you heard a young woman, even today, say that, you know what, I really want to just find a wonderful husband or partner, whatever the case may be,
Hmm.
and I want to have babies and I want to nurture a family.
Hmm.
People would not rejoice over that,
No,
Kylie.
it's
What
not
they would
enough,
say
right?
is, what a waste.
Yes.
She had
Waste.
so much potential, and I talk about that in my book because it was a scam. We
Mm,
basically got scammed. And I
hmm.
think that we see that even in the mommy wars.
Mm.
So, we have working women pitted against stay-at-home
Ah.
moms, and the misogyny involved in that. It's a beautiful strategy, Kylie. Like if
Oh,
you if
isn't
you think
it?
about it.
Divide
Well,
and conquer.
yeah, exactly. To be a tiny bit conspiratorial in all this is like, you think that you figure that the powers that be can keep women divided and at war with each other, including war with themselves,
Hmm.
and then are in a position where in male-female relationships, they're consistently looking for where they're being oppressed in their relationships, and then you have strife in the home. You
Correct.
look, the United States is like an outlier when it comes to single parenthood. And look, I've got nothing against single moms or single parenthood, don't mistake that for judgment,
Yeah.
but it's a reality
Yeah.
that in the United States we've basically, like, there's a war being waged on the family, and we're paying the price for it. Our
Yeah.
children are paying the price for it. There was a study
Hmm.
that came out of Canada, and people can look this up. I don't recall the author of the study at the moment, but there was a 10-year-long study in Canada about
Hmm.
the impact of having our children in daycare
Oh, don't
for
even get me
long,
started.
yeah,
Far out.
for
Yep.
long periods of time. I mean, like
Yep.
measurable changes in aggression,
Hmm.
depression.
Yep.
I mean, all of these things that, like, when you deteriorate and disintegrate the family and break
Hmm.
it down to, making couples raising kids an anomaly,
Yeah.
that there are dire consequences.
Hmm.
So within the context of fertility, what this book coming out is about,
Mm.
it's truly a love letter to femininity, and it's an
Mm.
invitation for women to come back to their femininity, because I am telling you, Kylie, with the anecdotal data that I've gathered over
Mm.
10 years of doing this work, the sooner that a woman leans back into her feminine, the faster this baby comes in.
Yep.
Baby comes in right on time. This was true in my life. I mean,
Hmm.
leaning into the feminine is a way of compressing time and space. So you'll take a woman who struggles
Yeah, because we're
for
bloody
7 years.
magic.
Yeah.
That's why they want us
Well,
to be fighting each other, because
yeah.
God forbid we were in our power.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you take a woman like who struggled for 7 years, you give her her femininity back, you have her start enjoying her life again, and she's
Hmm.
pregnant within 12 months. I mean, I
Hmm.
see this all the
All the
freaking time.
time.
Like,
Yep.
right. And
Hmm.
so it's like, and I want to be clear that this isn't about gender roles. This is,
Mm.
it's masculine and feminine energy. We all have
Yes.
masculine and feminine. You know this. Your
Hmm.
listeners probably know this, but it bears reinforcement that it
Yeah,
is
let's
normal.
define. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's normal for us as
Hmm.
women to want feminine shit, and
Yeah.
to have feminine things like feelings,
Oh
and
my
want to
God, no.
honor those.
We can't
Yeah,
have
I mean,
them. We're Gen Xers. Roseanne, come
I
on.
know we drank out of hoses. Yeah, like, so it's, yeah, I mean, I think it once I realized that this problem is, was, and is as
Mm-hmm.
pervasive as it is. I needed to do the, I mean, I had my suspicions about this for a long time. I knew
Yeah.
the truth,
Yes.
but I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that I had the data to back it up. And so
Uh-huh.
this book is all about that, taking it, giving everyone a history lesson, showing the data,
Mm-hmm.
showing this, and really looking at the impact, and then inviting women to consider this as part of their fertility cure, is
So
to
good.
go back to the feminine and not be at war with ourselves.
Oh. Hmm.
It's big.
Not be at war with ourselves. Do you know I am developing again a journaling habit in the mornings. And I was just
Oh, good for
listening to,
you.
yes, I was just listening to Liz Gilbert and Jonathan Field on the Good Life Project talk about a journaling prompt that Liz has been using for years. And it says,
Mm.
Dear love, what would you have me know today? And the very
Ooh.
thing that you just talked about, I actually journaled this morning. Like Love's message to me this morning was, you are so good at striving and struggling and fighting against. And this is the season for just allowing things to be deeply satisfying and easy and to flow to you, because I am realizing like I am great at striving towards something, as no doubt you are. But when I align to my deep feminine power and just say, hey, I would like this, and allow that to travel towards me, I do not need to strive. I can take care of myself. I can feel juicy in my skin and deeply connected to my husband and my friends and all of those things that we've just talked about. And yet I'm so used to striving. It's still a default. And I'm like, and that's what Love was talking about this morning. So I actually wrote similar words to at war
Mm.
with yourself. It's like, you don't have to fight anymore. There's nothing to struggle against or, fight for. Just let it go.
That's so
And I'm like,
beautiful.
oh, does that not feel like a relief in your body?
It does. I mean, just hearing you say it, and even,
Gorgeous.
listening into your energy, is when you think about that too. It's like when we think about the feminine, Kylie, like
Mm-hmm.
the feminine is at its essence about abundance,
Yeah.
and striving is all about lack. It's
Mm-hmm.
about
Exactly.
scarcity.
Exactly.
It's about all
Grabby,
of
grippy
those.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, and that's gross. That's gross
It's like,
energy.
ooh.
Oh
The
man, it's
universe is
this.
like,
Well, it's repellent.
yeah.
It's repellent. I mean, think about the people that you love working with, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are probably abundant thinkers. There are
Yep.
people who raise your vibration. There are
Yeah.
people that are a pleasure to work with that aren't,
Mm-hmm.
you know, uh energetic vampires
Ooh.
coming into your space and want to take from you. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
all about the give and the take. And
Yeah.
I think that one of the most destructive things that has happened to us as women is being thrust into this scam of lack and scarcity, because it is a
Yep.
scam.
Yeah.
You know, when
100%.
you think about it, and it's I think what you're sharing here about even your own journaling
Mm-hmm.
practice is encouraging women to go back to the core of their deepest knowing. You
Yes.
knew when you woke up and you do your journaling that, hey, let shit be easy, Kylie.
Yeah. Let shit be easy. Like,
Yeah,
stop
and
making it harder than what it needs to be.
well, but think about it. Think about all of the things, and this is true on the fertility journey, even in the rest
Mm-hmm.
of our lives. I mean, the way we do one thing is the way we do
Yeah,
everything.
of
So
course.
it's
100%.
like, it applies to fertility, but it applies to so many things that if you really take a look at why we strive and
Mm-hmm.
why we make things difficult, most of us are running around with a story that we have to earn it.
Yep.
And that
100%.
earning, yeah, and that earning requires suffering. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have a story that says things have to be hard in order for me to be worthy of it,
Yep.
you will make simple things difficult.
Correct. You will overcomplicate things. That's exactly what I was
And
journaling about. I'm like, yeah, not, this does not have to be about sacrifice. It does not have to be about struggle. It does not have to be about strive. Just
having
do the
babies
things that
is
feel good.
natural.
Yes, this is the
It's
other thing.
natural.
Oh, and this is when I think I have a couple of friends that have gone through the IVF end of things, and it just becomes so mechanical and medicalized, and I'm like, oh, you're just like this process is making you deeply unhappy and deeply out of alignment with what you value. And then the worst thing is then when it doesn't work, you're blaming you, like you're blaming yourself, which then is a whole other, level of
Mhm.
shame and guilt and whatever, like fill in the blank. And yeah, I love the fact that there's people in the world like you that are challenging the traditional way that we've approached things, because these paradigm shifts, if we're not having these conversations and we don't have people like you that have shifted from one way of being to the other people, like it's not even in the field of possibilities for women that are struggling with infertility, right? So you're cracking open the possibilities and then shining a light on what they can do. And I'm so excited for this book. So tell me a bit more. It comes out, when did you say? 1st of August?
August.
So
Yeah, so it
very
comes out the
soon.
first of, yeah, it comes out very soon. It's been a labor of love.
Exciting. They
In
always
the
are.
first yeah, in the yeah, definitely. And like in the this whole process is, we actually the book got so big that we're splitting it in two because so
Hmm.
many different topics, came out of it. So much of the
Yeah.
research that I was doing into it just opened my eyes to so many things. I mean,
Hmm.
people can do a simple PubMed search and
Yeah.
find that there's data that demonstrates that women with higher cortisol levels take longer time to conceive, right? So there's data on this and nobody's talking about it. People
Yeah.
still in the medical community
This is
are
crazy
you
to
are
me.
making mindset this woo-woo garbage when it's our first line of defense. It's our first line of cure is to
Mhm.
always go back to ourselves. It starts
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's like, I'm like,
Mm.
when's as soon as we can get this book out?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
let's get
August
it out
1st,
there.
yeah,
And so
August 1st is when it's coming out.
if people are listening and they're in the stage where they're experiencing infertility, or they're noticing the patterns that you're talking about, where could they start? How can people work with you? I know you have a program as well, so can you talk about that a little bit? And we'll give some show note links and everything to
Yeah,
each of the
oh, for
things that you talk
sure.
about.
Yeah, one of the first places that I would go, like, I
Hmm.
mean, my first book is titled Am I the Reason I'm Not Getting Pregnant? The
Hmm.
Fearlessly Fertile Method for Clearing the Blocks Between You and Your Baby. So that's
Mm.
a fun place to start.
Hmm.
I mean, women can start without even buying the book by going to the podcast, the Fearlessly Fertile podcast. And we
Perfect.
have about 200 and almost 280 episodes.
Hmm.
And a significant number of those, like it's nicely distributed between me popping off about certain things and then interviews with my clients and
Yep.
interviews with various experts in the field.
Hmm.
But I really encourage women to go and listen because it's so much, and it's not so much for the episodes with me. Take those
Hmm.
or leave those, right? I
Hmm.
mean, but there's so much negativity, the fear, the
Yes.
doubt around fertility. Go listen to about 20 episodes with my clients.
Yes. Yep.
Go get inspired. Go see
Hmm.
what's possible. When you hear a cardiothoracic anesthesiologist getting pregnant naturally at 44, that
Woohoo!
will lift your spirits. I mean,
Yep.
I just had a woman in my program. She's 48, got pregnant naturally. So, it's go and gather the stories and the inspiration of real
Yes.
women
Yep.
who have leveraged the power of mindset to turn their
Hmm.
result around,
Yep.
and go and look at that and see how that lands with you,
Mm.
because I like to encourage women listen to those
Yes.
episodes and then check in with yourself, because
Yes.
if there was any part of you saying no, that's not possible for me, that tells you where the work is,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
Or that
Hmm.
she just got lucky, or she must have had money, or she must have
Oh,
not have
yeah.
been a
Yeah. Yeah.
bigger
Yeah.
sinner than me. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
no.
No.
Every single one of these women would grab you by the shirt and lovingly shake you, telling you that if she could do it, so can
So
you,
can
but you
you?
got to get your mind out of the
Yep.
gutter
Yep.
of
And
that
open up the
limited
field of
belief.
possibilities. Because, as you
Yeah.
said, if you're seeing a doctor that says you've got a 1 in a billion chance of falling pregnant naturally, guess what? That's what you believe. listening to your podcast sounds like it's exactly the opposite end of the possibility spectrum. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
open up.
And I would tell women, look, hey, if somebody tells you you have a 10% chance, don't focus on the 90% that it won't
No.
work. Focus on the 10% that it
Mm-hmm.
can, because
Mm-hmm.
you just have to make a decision that you're going to be an outlier.
Yeah.
I come at this, Kylie, from the perspective that if a woman has a desire, if the desire, is there in her heart
Mm-hmm.
for a child, there is a child that's meant for her. So
Yeah.
go and lead your journey from that perspective. The
Mm.
desire is there because it was meant for you.
Yeah.
And if they just made that one subtle shift and allowed themselves to keep going in that way, I think
Mm.
they're going to start to see a completely different result because the quality of their decisions changes from that perspective.
Correct. Yep. Yep. Because you believe that it's possible. So therefore you can align your actions to it. Ah, this has
Yes.
been so beautiful a conversation. Again, thank you for the work that you do in the world, because paradigm shifting ain't easy. And when you are helping people, and particularly props to you for being brave enough to be in the medical profession shift. But I do feel like you've made so many good points about, yeah, these people are humans. We're all humans. And when we start coming whole human to whole human without the power structure, then we can create much more positive, yeah, partnerships and yeah, take some self-responsibility, which I think has been a very big theme. So thank you. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you
Well,
for coming and
thank you for
sharing.
having me
It's been
and thank you for
great.
being willing to have a brave conversation. And I think that one of the things that I would also encourage your audience to consider is, look, it's never too late.
Mhm.
And just like, you're talking about women in the second act and all
Yeah.
this other stuff, I think it's really important for women to give themselves an opportunity to ask what they want. And
Yes.
don't be confined, either in your career or your business.
Mm-mm.
Don't be confined. Allow yourself to explore different avenues because
Yeah.
we got one life, baby, as far as we
Yeah.
know. You got to make this
Exactly.
one count.
Yep.
So thank you,
And
Kylie. Thank you very much.
thank you. See you later. Thanks for tuning in to Wild and Finally Fucking Free. I'm Kylie, your host. And given that I know you would have enjoyed this episode, please do us a favor and subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow freedom seekers. Remember, being seen in all our mess and magic helps heal ourselves and the world, because the world needs more wild and finally fucking free humans. Have a great day.